is the race for a lot of races. It kind of comes down to that. A lot of races are over in the first couple minutes. So I think it's very important. I think we've always been kind of weak in this spot. So I just want to talk about it. I don't have a ton of notes, but I think what we're going to do is we'll start with a few of my own notes, and we'll start with a few of the PowerPoint notes, and then we'll go into some video. And hopefully I'm not talking the whole time. Hopefully you guys can jump in and help me out too. So I will be calling on people. So I think just to start out, I can share my screen a little bit just to look at this PowerPoint. And I'm not sure if everyone's looked at this very closely. Can you guys see my screen now? Verbally, because I can't see you anymore?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so if everybody can see that, is that zoomed in enough? So I think that I don't want to go into this too much detail. I think you should read this on your own. But basically, there's a lot of stuff here is like really simple, right? We're looking at simple things that what we're doing right off the start line. And we can talk about starting today a little bit, but don't need to get into it too much. I mostly want to focus on that first minute after the start line. But basically here is like a bunch of golden rules, right? A lot of the stuff is like fleet race first before you team race, do your pre-start homework so that you know what the course is doing and you know what the shift is doing and what phase you're in and all that stuff. I think the interesting stuff, I think we all kind of know that, and we know that we should be fleet racing first before team racing. And I think that that should always be a golden rule that we're following. But also to that point, I also think a lot of times the more experienced teams can do things at the same time, right? They can fleet race unconsciously and still be looking at kind of where their pairs are, what play they're kind of forming into and stuff like that. So I think that it doesn't always need to be an either or. We can do both at the same time. So if I'm coming off the pin and I'm fleet racing, there, sometimes I don't have a lot of options, and fleet racing doesn't really mean I need to think about it a lot, right? I can just sail straight, maybe pay attention if there's a header or a lift, and hopefully my crew's paying attention to that too. But generally we can be starting to look at team racing. So I think, can you guys see my cursor? I think like right here, just looking at one, I think like it doesn't really matter if you're a pin or a middle or a boat pair. I think we can just look at these simple little things, and I encourage you to read these on your own. But basically, like if you're starting to windward, there's certain rules that you should follow. If you're starting to leeward, there's certain rules we should follow, right? And I think we'll touch back into this stuff once we look at some video. Okay. Sorry, I was reading for a second. Yeah, so do you guys see this? Like, this is your windward boat, right? So the boat that starts with the boat, if you're to leeward, then you're trying to pinch off the opponent and control kind of that windward boat. If you're to windward, you're becoming that gatekeeper, meaning you're protecting the right side of that course, right? We're protecting starboard advantage. So when you break these things down and we start reading this stuff and getting familiar, then we realize that there's not very many choices to make, right? Like if you're the leeward boat and you're the boat pair, and that means leeward to your competitor, right? Do you guys all understand that? So like if you're at the boat pair for your team, you still might be windward or to leeward of your competitor. So there's only two choices, right? There's two things right here. So it's not a ton of things to think about right off the bat, if you can break them down, right? So if you're windward here, then there's three things to look at, right? So you're starting to look at these pairs, you're starting to look at your numbers, you're starting to look if you're riding or tacking. I think riding here means like pinning or staying with your pair if you're to windward. And then you look at the middle pair. Yeah.
Sorry, riding means like, it doesn't mean like covering or slowing down. It just means that you're riding them to an edge. You're keeping them, you're more or less pinning them. Yeah. But
yeah, so if you're windward, you're kind of controlling that boat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't mean slowing the boat, right? Yeah, good point. So here, if you're the middle pair, does everyone understand when I say middle pair and windward pair? Does that make sense to everybody? I can't see you right now, so you have to verbally say no if you want to know. Okay. Thank you. So there's 3 options here for the middle pair, right? Pinch off windward opponent. That means in your incoming call to teammate, right? If that makes sense. Basically when your windward pair tacks out, and then you're calling to your gatekeeper, that boat pair, and you're saying, okay, gatekeeper, they're tacking out, you know, that's communication from the middle guy. Remember, that middle guy is kind of that communicating gate between the windward and leeward boat, because sometimes the windward boat can't hear the leeward boat, right? If you're behind windward boat, tacking out early, then you're all of a sudden being that boat that maybe the other pair is gatekeeping. So I think when you look at it here at like your golden rules, you're basically trying, we're emphasizing here in these 6 things is like trying to not lose the race right away, right? That's a common factor. It's like a triathlon saying, like you can lose the race in the first thing, but you can't win it, right? So we're just kind of trying not to lose the race here. So if you have a bad start, you're trying to pick up one pair, you're trying to consolidate that, you're trying to get out and trying to come back with some advantage. And then if you have a lead, you're kind of trying to be a little bit more conservative with it. So this third thing here is just if you're alone, which I guess we'll get into that later if you're helping other people, but we don't want to get into that yet. So, and then this is your leeward pair down here. I guess we have our windward pair. Windward pair in the middle, same thing. You're kind of riding the opponent if you're to windward, right? Controlling, pinning, not slowing. Just kind of being careful of where you are with them. And then if you're behind that leeward opponent, then you're looking out to tack out and see if that gatekeeper is going to attack on you.
Can I ask a question, Quinn?
Yeah.
So if you're riding an opponent after the start, the reason that term, you know, like to me, I always view that as like, say they're garbage, right? And they can tack out because they're just so far behind you, or like there's just plenty of space for them to make a space and tack out. In that situation, I mean, you still want to keep your boat speed, full speed, like almost just like fleet racing, but maybe looking for an opportunity to like pin them if they were going to go try to gatekeep somebody, right? I mean, do you think you would ever slow down and make sure you're definitely pinning them? Do you understand my question?
Yeah, I think no. I think don't. You're not doing anything unless you have a reason to do it, right? So that's, I think, another golden rule of team racing. Maybe that's not in the spreadsheet, but that's something I think about. I think that if there's not a reason to do something, then just don't do it, right? So if there's not a reason to slow that boat down, then you wait for a reason, right? If there's not something, you don't need to like act on that. So yeah. I think a big point is like, you don't want to be wasting time, and you don't want to be wasting what your boat can do. So if all of a sudden that boat tacks out and you're in the middle all alone, which is one of these third options, like good start alone, then you have to start worrying if you're not helping anything, right? You have to start worrying if you're just a wasted boat there and not doing any good, because all of a sudden you know that your windward boat has 2 boats to deal with. If somebody tacked out and they also have the boat that they started next to, now they're dealing with 2 boats, maybe the pin guy, you don't know what's happening there. So whenever you're alone or whenever you're not actively doing something, you have to look and make sure that you're not wasting your teammate
freedom,
like your third boat, right? That's the power.
So one thought I had was, if you were ever that windward boat of the boat end, right? So you're the windward boat and you have the ability to ride that opponent that's below you. Probably what you want to be looking at is your middle or your pin guy in trouble where they're going to be tacking out soon and heading to the right. And in that situation, you might have a scenario where you can say, I can ride or pin not only the boat end guy, but also the middle guy, and make it so that my guy can get free to the right. Like that might be a time where you say, okay, like I'm going to control these people. But I think, to Quinn's point, you got to have that reason. And I see that a lot with younger team racers, is that they're looking to just team race to team race, never team race to team race. Team race because you're helping your friend.
Yep. Okay, so I think there's just a few things here, like right shift and left shift, and I think that stuff's pretty obvious. It's kind of like trying to protect and get your team to the right side of the shift. So I think just read that on your own. It's pretty straightforward. So I think I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I think to look at some my notes here. I wanted to just do a few checkpoints that I want you guys to think about. You don't have to write them down or anything, but just think about kind of checkpoints that you're mentally checking when you're coming off the start line, right? And then we'll get into some video to visualize it a little bit better.
Hey, Quinn, can I share something really quick before you get into stuff?
Yeah.
I had a direct question where it said, hey, like I'm having trouble keeping up with some of the terminology and stuff. So in the team racing playbook, a lot of that stuff is in there, but I'll share another document as well that's got a lot of like the terminology, like what's riding and stuff. But this team racing playbook is quite long. I mean, it's quite long, but if you take the time and read through it, you can find like a lot of the terminology and stuff. In fact, it explains it with pictures. So like what's balancing, what's unbalanced, what's sorry, I'm looking for a couple other ones here, but crossover, high, low, there's all types of stuff. So if you read through this, it kind of goes through what's a mark trap, what's all that stuff. So that the playbook, as long as it is, people should view this as an academic practice. Like you should be reading through it. And I know we need our own, but read through it because that's like the #1 team race team in the country was using that. All right.
Yeah, I think it's not dense reading. I think it's probably easier than any other reading you're doing. So I think look through it. I think at the very beginning, there's kind of like a little dictionary with the terminology for the terms. So it's like 1 page basically of reading, half a page. So go through that. I'll try to don't be afraid to jump in and ask a question, and I'll try to clarify what I'm talking about too. Okay, so I think we'll get into some starting when we watch the video, but I just want to go through that checklist of what we're thinking about when we're coming off the line, right? So when we're first coming off the line, the playbook like firmly states, and we've kind of always had this, that we're fleet racing first, right? And I think that we talked about that maybe we can do a little bit of both at the same time. So I think like first priority is definitely your boat, right? You're coming off the line, maybe you're tight with a leeward boat or windward boat, and you're trying to hold your lane. And I think that's important. But I think right after you're kind of done looking in your boat and done getting like your lane figured out and your start figured out, you're basically trying to identify what's happening, right? You're trying to identify what is going on. Like, am I sailing by myself? No, obviously I have 2 other teammates. I have 3 other opponents. There's a lot going on and you just need to start identifying. So I think like the first thing that is easily identifiable is like identifiable is that if I need help, like, do I need a help, right? So if you're in last and you've been rolled off the start line, then maybe you're like, okay, I do need help. Maybe that's really easy to identify, right? If you won your pair and you're on your side and you're winning the race, maybe I don't need help, right? So that's pretty simple first thing that we can identify. Am I good or am I not good, right? Then I think you can look around and looking at your pairs, right? I think that's something that's really easily identified. Am I winning my own pair? That should be really easy to identify. And then maybe a little bit trickier is identifying the other pairs. Okay, do we have 2 pairs on our team or 3 pairs or no pairs? Does everybody know what winning your pair means? Right, so we have 3 pairs, right? We have 3 people on one team, 3 on the other team. If we're in a 1, 2, 6, then you're winning 2 pairs, right? Does that make sense? Cool. So I think that identifying pairs are the second thing you should be doing after we identify if we need help, right? You're looking at I think team racing is a lot about being selfish first, because it's easy to identify if the things that are happening to yourself, right? And I think if everybody's selfish on your team, then somehow that could be okay, because they're asking for help and they're identifying where the problem's happening. So don't be afraid to be selfish first and then move on to the next person. Like when you're on the plane, it says put your mask on first before helping others. That's what I think about. So take care of yourself first. Question. Yeah.
When you say they and you, are you talking about skipper, crew, like how much communication goes on between the two? Does it depend on like the boat, like what your style is, yada, yada?
Yeah, I think that is whoever's kind of helping, good question. Whoever's kind of trying to figure out what's happening, that can be kind of whoever you want in the boat. When I say me or I in the boat, that can be, I think that's both the crew and the skipper, right? If you're the crew, you should be thinking about us or I as one being one boat, right? So do I need help? that means that the crew and the skipper, the whole boat needs help, right? Does that answer your question? And definitely like whoever can figure that out, it doesn't matter, right? If your crew's like, oh, we lost our pair but my other two teammates have both pairs, then that's good. The skipper could be looking at their tiller extension and spacing out. Doesn't matter, as long as the communication gets through and everybody on the boat knows what's happening, then that's good, right? So if we can identify our pairs and identify if we need help, then we can start going into like more of an execution, right? There doesn't need to be any execution, but part of having a playbook and part of understanding and writing these things down is it makes things on the water simpler, right? It makes choices become a lot more easy to make, right? So if we don't need to execute anything, but we want to be thinking about an execution as quickly as possible, right? I want to be thinking about an execution a minute before I have to do the execution, because then I'll have plenty of time and be calm and do it really well, right? I don't want to be immediately thinking about it and then a second later having to do it, right? You want to be thinking about it early. So if you have time and if you're identifying everything correctly, then just start running scenarios through your head, right? We're running, okay, what if this person tacks? Then what's it going to look like? Oh, they're going to be on starboard and I'm going to be on port, so I might have to tack or duck, right? Those are things that you look forward, like look ahead every single time you're sailing, right? So we do it naturally, but we kind of, in team racing, everything's so exaggerated, we have to forcibly do that all the time, right? We have to force ourselves to look ahead and try to make up scenarios so that we can be prepared when they happen, right? So I think that something that is good to think about, and if anybody wants to jump in that I'm missing something, feel free, because I'm probably missing a few things that we should be thinking about, but these are just a few notes. So I think that something, after you identify your pairs, after you identify if you need help, you can start thinking about, if I slow down, who will I lose to, right? Does that make sense? So if I slow down a boat length, who am I going to lose to? So what I mean by that is that, like, if I'm in first and everyone's tied off the line and I slow down a boat length, then I'm going to lose to everybody, right? I'm going to be in sixth all of a sudden if everyone's tied, right? If I'm way out in front and I'm winning by 10 boat lengths, if I slow down a boat length, I'm not going to lose to anybody. I'm still going to be winning, right? So I think understanding, and a simple term that we throw around a lot is ladder rungs, right? I think understanding ladder rungs is where you can identify how much you're going to be losing, right? So I think I'm going to touch on this a little bit more when we watch video, right? But basically, if you're always looking for the least amount of effort to make the most effect, right? So if I can pass back my teammate and only lose a half a boat length, and if that half a boat length loss is not going to lose me to other people, then that seems like a good thing to do, right? If I have to lose 10 boat lengths to maybe pass back a teammate, then maybe that's not worth it, right? So we're constantly kind of judging, how much am I going to lose, and how much are other people going to gain, right? So I think just generally, after we understand our pairs, start thinking about, how much can I lose before something becomes harder for me? Does that make sense?
I have a comment I would add. So, I mean, and this might not be relevant to what you're saying, but for newer crews and newer skippers, you know, when you're team racing upwind, one of the things you can do is practice the basically, it's like coaching, right? Like when I'm watching coaching, I'm trying to figure out, like, how are we in the fleet? Like, how many boats are ahead of our boat right now? How many are probably behind our boat in fleet racing? So in team racing, you look at it, you say, okay, like, who's in first here? You know, who's in last? You know, start with the easy outliers. Like, well, that guy's way up there, he's probably winning. That's not our teammate. And that guy back there is way back there, and he is our teammate. So we're in sixth, not first, or something, like, you know, and some of that stuff comes into play, particularly if you're like, oh, we're in first and we're not in sixth. You know, you're winning the race. You're either play one or play four. And if you're in like a second, you know that you're probably going to play two. But then figuring out and starting to practice, well, that guy's probably, because of starboard advantage, going to be third. He's probably going to be fourth right behind him. You know what I mean? And that gives you an idea of, like, how are we coming into this? So if you're coming in a 2-5-6, you can start thinking that minute ahead. Most likely we're going to be a 2-5-6, maybe a 2-4-6. You can start thinking ahead. Well, where's the play going to be? If we're a 2-4-6, we're going to want to make that play between the 2 and the 4 to get 2 and 2-3. And if we're in a 2-5-6, then I'm going to be Supermaning at Mark 2 to try to like take a guy out, and then the 5-6 are going to high-low on somebody else. And this is all player roles and goals. You have that memorized. You already should know what that's going to be. That's in the player roles and goals document. But if you can start to predict what's going to look like in a minute or two, especially coming up on a rounding, then you can plan ahead and say, oh, we're going to be in a 1-4-6. The play action is going to be between the 4 and the 6. I'm going to be the 1. So I don't want to be slowing a bunch at Mark 2. I want them to keep the 1. I want them to do the work between the 4 and 6 and become a 1-4-5. Anyway.
Yeah,
sorry,
I think that's definitely correct, but Brad's almost moving too fast right now. Okay. So just definitely getting into that, but
sorry,
I'm
fast.
Brad's brain is too quick for us. Okay. So, so all those numbers should definitely be running through your head, but I'm hoping to make it a little bit more simple so we don't have to be as smart as Brad when we're out there. Okay. So I think that what I have written down here is exactly what Brad has, like who has the 1, who has the 6, but I'm not there yet. So give me a second. Okay. So I just want to say the third thing after, and I think Joe, I'll credit Joe for my last point, is he said the word wiggle room, right? And that is a great way to describe it, what I just described. So how much wiggle room do I have to move without something drastically happening to my boat or my position? Does that make sense? So that's an I think to identify. And then the third and fourth things are really simple, right? We're just identifying who's weak and who needs help and who's strong and who doesn't need help, right? So we identify our pairs, we identify our wiggle room, then we're identifying who needs help and who doesn't need help, right? If nobody needs help, then that's great. If everybody needs help, then you have to start worrying about some things, right? Then, not even to Brad's point yet, we're looking at finding a play, right? And this doesn't have to be complicated. I think finding a play, all finding a play does is it's a way to like describe what you're gonna do, right? So a play doesn't actually have any meaning. It's just a way of describing something, right? So if you come out and you're in a 1-2-3, then we all know what to do, right? You're sailing fast, you're going to win the race in a 1-2-3, right? But a play 1 describes what you're supposed to do, right? So we don't need to be thinking exactly a play too quickly. We just need to be thinking about what needs to get done and then trying to describe it with a play so that we can communicate to our team, so that we can be on the same page. Does that make sense? So identifying our pair, understanding our wiggle room, looking for who needs help and doesn't need help. Then we're looking to find a play. And finding a play doesn't mean knowing the play, right? I think Brad is looking at knowing a play instantly, and I think for the more advanced people, that should come pretty naturally. The people that have studied this for a couple of years, it to come naturally, like, okay, we're in a play 2, we're in a play 1, right? That'll come naturally, but that doesn't have to come naturally right away, right? First thing, just like Brad said, like we're identifying who has the 1, who has the 6, right? Now, I'm going to pick on some people right now. If we don't have the 1, what play are we in? Anybody can answer. It's to be quick answer. If we don't have the 1, what play are we in?
Tristan says
Play
2.
2.
Okay, right. So that's very simple. You never have to worry about deciding what play to call. Joe saying something? No. You never have to worry about what play to call if you don't have the 1. Does that make sense? Does anybody disagree with me? No, if you don't have the 1, you're in play 2. Doesn't matter. Nothing matters after that, right? Now, just identifying that you're in a play 2 doesn't solve all of your problems, right? That's just a way of describing what you have to do, right? If you have the 6, then that doesn't describe very much, right? You could be in a play 2 and a play 1 or play 4. That doesn't help that much. But identifying who has the 1 is the easiest and most straightforward way to identify a play, right? So I think that before you worry about anything, you just look like, oh, does my team have the 1 or does the other team have the 1, right? So I think that is just a really easy way to figure out what play you are, right? So what we're going to work on this quarter a lot when we start sailing again is like these really tight starting off the start first legs, right? Because sometimes it can be really, really hard to understand which play we're in because we can't understand what spot we're in, right? We don't know if we're, maybe sometimes we don't know who has the one, right? And that's definitely possible. Definitely a bunch of times you come off the line and you don't know who's winning, right? And it's really hard. And everybody looks kind of like equal, right? So it's really hard to just identify a play right away, which is why we always go back to that fleet racing first mentality, right? But I think that understanding those, like who needs help, who doesn't need help, do I need help, am I winning my pair, who has the one, all of that stuff is kind of warming you up to eventually calling a play, maybe 3/4 up the first leg, maybe not till mark 1, right? We don't need to call a play too early. We just need to start identifying these small things and start working towards, oh, maybe I'm going to help this person get into the 2 if I'm in the 1. Maybe I'm going to do this. Maybe I'm going to just sail by myself for a second and protect my opponent, right? So I think calling plays don't have to be that number one priority, that first thing to do, okay? And then after finding your plays, you're basically executing. That's the thing I have. That's your 4th thing to do, execute. And I think before you execute, if you already know and you're thinking ahead and you're like, okay, these are the scenarios, this is what I'm going to do if this happens, this is what I'm going to do if another thing happens, that's my execution. And then you check the boxes whether it's time sensitive or not time sensitive, right? Does that make sense? So like, do I need to do that right away? If I don't help my teammate right away, are they going to get double teamed and put in the 6 and I'm going to be in a 1-5-6? Or do we have a ton of time and I can wait till mark 2 to do it, right? So find your play, then look at the execution. That doesn't mean you have to execute. It just means you're looking at the execution. You're thinking about it, right? You're thinking about whether it's time sensitive or not. Any questions? Let's look at some video if we don't have any questions, or if we have questions, either way. All right, good. Did I lose anyone?
I'm here.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes. Cool. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Maybe make it large if you can.
All right. So I haven't fully watched through this yet, but we'll watch it now together. So right now we're doing it's red versus black, right? This is the easiest one because it's not sale numbers. And we're gonna talk a little bit about pre-start, but we're mostly gonna talk about choices right off the start line, choices after the gun. Okay, that sound good? And please stop me if you have any questions because it's hard to judge what you guys are finding helpful or not. I believe, Brad, is that the boat end there? That buoy in the water?
You know, I didn't have time to review these videos ahead of time either, so I
Okay.
don't know, but I'm gonna guess yes.
It's not the boat end. It's not. It's Mark 3. So never mind.
Okay.
You'll see the boat end pretty soon. So everyone's kind of really high in the box. If you don't know what that means, that's okay right now. But so right now, starting's pretty one-on-one, right? Does that make sense to everybody? So kind of that pin pair is one-on-one, that middle pair is one-on-one, that boat pair is one-on-one, and that's going to happen until there's a reason for it not to happen, right? If someone's running out of room, if someone needs help, then it won't be one-on-one. But right now, it looks pretty independent.
Can you add
Here's your boat end.
Can you add basic terminology as you go? So like leading and chasing and what each boat is, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So what I like about this setup right here is that you kind of have to look at the order of your boats, right? So right now, like you can do it however you want. You can kind of count it from any direction how you want, but basically like sometimes you're going to be every other boat, right? Sometimes you're going to be lured pair on every single pair. Does that make sense? Sometimes you're going to be like here, you're lured pair, windward pair, then lured pair, right? And it can be any kind of format or any kind of order like that, but it's good to identify your other pairs to see what's happening, right? Because this pair might be, this lured pair has a ton of control of where this windward pair is, but your black teammate over here number 12 doesn't have a lot of control over 1 because they're to leeward, right? So identifying what order your boat is, almost like a play, but kind of unrelated, pre-start is important to know like where your threats are going to come from. And yeah, leading is this leeward boat, chasing is the windward boat. So you see the chasing boats are kind of coming in and trying to hook the leading boats, or trying to kind of get some sort of attack on that leeward boat, and that leeward boat is kind of defending and trying to keep their lane to the start line. So now your order switch, right? Now you're in a lead. It's looking not great for red here. All right, so I don't know if the gun has gone off yet, but everyone looks kind of late. Everyone looks kind of low in the box. 10 is rocking a lot, but I think that here is a good place to start thinking about what the race course is looking like, right? Pretty much everyone's kind of like late, it's fully accelerating. They're not kind of doing they're doing their start routine anymore. You're pretty much going right now, right? And the first thing that I'm seeing just right off the bat, well, actually, let's just throw out some things. What is striking about this setup right now? Anyone before I choose people?
Hold the black.
I mean, black 12 and 10 are very close to each other. It's one thing.
There's
Okay,
no
very
red
close to
boat
each other.
by 10.
What was that? Can you repeat
10
that?
10's basically like alone, so no red boat is on them right now.
Mm-hmm.
And looks like they also might not make the pin, or not easily at least.
Yeah, good point. Maybe not making the pin. I think they probably are making the pin right here. And I think all those points are good to think about, right? It's interesting to look at when teammates are next to each other, right? Because then you worry about if they're disrupting each other somehow, or if they're pinning each other somehow. There's not a lot of coverage. There's not a lot of control when you're right next to each other, right? But I think the most striking thing for me is that the black is controlling the, like they are on the left side of the course, and red is going to be on the right side of the course, right? I think this boat is going to dock and be on the right. This boat is going to start on the right. So now you have 2 black boats on the left and two red boats on the right. And I think that doesn't really mean anything. It's just something that I kind of look at right now and just think that that's the biggest annoyance maybe. And the second thing is that, yeah, the boats are next to each other, right? Anything else to add? I feel like that pretty much covers it right now. Let's see what happens. Oh, Eric, you might be right. Oh, barely made it. A little contact there, maybe. So, oops.
Knowledge is a curse.
All right. So, what are we thinking if we're black here?
Shit.
So we don't know any plays, right? Obviously way too early for that, but we're going to go back to my little checklist, right? So what is the first thing on the checklist?
Go fast.
Yeah. What's the second thing?
Identify the one.
That's farther down the list, but yes, I would say the second thing is
my pair.
yeah. Do I need help or do I not need help, right? So if I am this boat right here, can you guys see my cursor?
Yes.
So does this boat need help?
No.
No, right? Maybe I'm getting a little too into this part, but I think that we're looking at our checklist again. The first thing is fleet racing. The second thing is, do I need help? The third thing is, what's the third thing? Didn't even remember. I forgot to. Third thing
The
is,
second
oh
thing is to
yeah,
identify
my
the pairs.
identifying the pairs, and then what's my wiggle room? Like, what can I do, and how will that gain or lose, right? And then we're looking at who's weak and who's strong. So right here, 11 is they're realizing that black is totally to the left of the course. They're all stuck up here. This boat is kind of riding. This red boat is kind of riding, like they say in the playbook. These other two boats, but they're kind of all stuck up right here, and there's no reason that these people can like really need anything. And he sees that threat, that there's a lot of red boats on the right, so they're just tacking, right? That's a super easy, simple way to balance out the fleet, right? This may be a bad example because of the pin end, everybody hitting the pin end. So we'll see how this goes. All right, so who has the 1?
The red boat we can't see over to the right.
Maybe, right? Maybe they do. We can't see them. But I would say if I'm the red team, I'm already calling a play 2. And maybe that's getting ahead of myself. But that's what I'm thinking. Does anybody disagree with that call?
I think
So
that's
I skipped.
exactly correct.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I skipped way down my little checklist, right? I was like Brad and I went way too fast, right? So I didn't do my checklist. And maybe I did really quickly in my head right off the start line if I'm a red team, right? But I think the red team should immediately identify that these boats are in the 5 and the 6, right? And if we're in the 1, then maybe we're in a 1-3-5, right? And maybe that's great. And in the playbook, I think they say a 1-3-5, you need to make a pass back, but not that quickly. If you're a 1-3-4. If you're in a 1-3-5, then you need to make it quickly, right? But a 1-3-4, there's not a hurry to make a pass back. It says that in the playbook. And there's not a hurry to keep that 1 either, right? That 1 is basically not very important. So I think, who was that? Was that Julia or Kyla saying that the red has the 1?
Yeah, that was me.
I think that, I can't see who that is, sorry.
It's Julia.
Okay, cool. Anyways, I think that like definitely good to identify that, but you have to think if that matters or not, right? And I think right now it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who has the 1. And by going to that checklist and saying who has the 1 and who has the 6, I think you answer that question, and you answer it by saying it doesn't matter, right? So if the red has the 1, great. You can go back, you can take your time, you can do a 1-3 pass back, you can beat and play 1. If they don't have the 1, great also, because we're in a really, really solid play 2. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, but I was gonna say, what do you do, Quinn, if you're 11 right now? Like, what would you
11,
do?
you have to keep the 1, right? So that's my only option.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna ask some questions that, you're assuming that he's got the 1, but is it possible, like seeing where the other 2 boats, how they're so claustrophobic together, could he step up and kind of double cover them, or at least take one of them out so that one of his teammates could get free? Or do you think that's a waste?
So it's definitely like what Brad's asking should definitely be running through 11's mind, right? All of that should be running through 11's mind. They should be thinking, okay, do I need help? Right? That's my first thing. Obviously, my fleet racing went pretty well. I started in the middle, I tacked, I'm probably winning, if not close, and my fleet racing is going well. Do I need help? No. No one's covering me. I'm probably winning. I don't need help, right? What's the third thing? How many pairs do we have, right? Yeah, how many pairs do I have? Okay, so I have 1 pair, right? I'm the only pair, and maybe not, right? Maybe it's close with number 3, so I should be still on my fleet race kind of general idea should be fleet racing, because I really don't want to lose number 3, right? Then we're looking at our 4th thing, who is weak, who needs help, who doesn't need help, right? Both of my teammates need help. So what Brad's kind of thinking is like, okay, both of my teammates need help. Can I help them? Do I have a lot of wiggle room? No, I don't have a lot of wiggle room, right? My wiggle room is very low, because if I go back to help, I'm losing the 1. Maybe that's okay. Maybe if this boat all of a sudden is in front of boat 2, I can lose the 1 and make a pass back and move to a play 2. Maybe, right? These are all questions that should be running through your head. And I think that wiggle room question and the how many pairs I have question kind of answers it right here, right? It doesn't really answer it, but it's kind of all you need to be thinking about. So let's see what what he does. But yeah, I think the questions that Brad are asking is what
Oh,
are the right
geez.
ones.
They're spinning. So that's interesting. Like if so, like 2 seconds earlier in the video, I was like, oh, maybe that's a question. But as soon as I see my buddy spinning and he's already in the 6, I'm going, okay, never mind, keep the 1. Because there's no way, if he was going to do something and weed the garden and make something happen with those 2 boats, it would have been like right away. But you probably just want to wait a second or 2 and see how it plays out for your buddies in 5th and 6th.
So we're 30 seconds off the start line, right? We're 30 seconds from gun, and it's pretty much already everything's played out, right? It's pretty much, we know what plays we're in. Everyone kind of should know their role or what their goal should be. We should be thinking selfishly first, like, what is my goal? What is the play? What is my role in that? And then how is my goal reacting to my role, right? So that's very, very quick. And you see that trying to identify those situations before they happen or make a big difference, because things happen very, very quick. We're like 25, 30 seconds after the start. So right now, like, these are really hard pass backs, and you'd have to look at how many boat lengths you'd have to lose to make a pass back, maybe 8, 10 boat lengths, right? And if my wiggle room's only 1 boat length, that's not something I want to do, right? So you're constantly gauging your wiggle room. And I don't think you go through your checklist once, right? You go through your checklist constantly. You're constantly running through these things of what you're looking at, what you should be thinking about, what you should be identifying. Now the red boats are in like a really, I was worried about this boat not attacking, but now that they went, it looks good. They're in a really solid play 2, right? Who wants to say what the goals of the play 2 are right now? Anyone?
Would one of them be making sure that the 1 doesn't slow them down too much, like pressuring them to keep going forward? So trying to condense the fleet.
Yeah, I think like what we said on Tuesday is sometimes that's not needed that much, because the 1 is so scared of losing the 1 anyways. But yeah, definitely, I think that can be a priority. But I think also a priority is making sure that the 5 and 6 are covered and balanced, right? And I think that if your other 2 teammates have that under control, then you can be kind of worried about that. But I think your first look should be balancing the 5 and 6, right? Does anybody disagree with that? So right here, they're kind of doing a good job of doing both of them, right? They're kind of pushing this 1, and they're probably going to go back right here, I hope.
Yeah, I just have a comment to add. I think the guy who's clearly the guy who's in second that's tacking right there, I think he should have crossed and became the point. And the guy who's loose covering the right black guy should have just kept loose covering him. So now they've kind of got a weird, awkward 2, 3, 4. I think the guy who's underneath the black 1 should have just carried into the middle. And that would have forced the 1 to make a choice. Like, well, wait a second. Am I going with the guy who's almost beating me? Or am I going to screw around with this other guy over here?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think Brad nailed that. I think that right now, when you look at it, it becomes really apparent. Because remember what I said earlier, like, if someone goes away from your spot and you're just kind of going fast, you have to wonder if you're being helpful, right? And I think this guy, this red man in the middle, or woman, I don't think they are being helpful at all. They're not helping anybody, right? They're not protecting anybody from the middle. They're not being a point that's like threatening the 1, right? They're not doing anything. So I think that if this boat switched and you had that kind of triangle shape where your most advantaged players in the middle and your ones that are a little bit farther back are on the left and the right, I think that creates a lot better protection and pressure on the 1. So right now they're almost scared of a pass back here with black, but I think it's still too spread out to do it. But if I was red, I would not be super comfy here.
Just starboard.
And now because this black boat is so far in front of this middle red boat, they can start dropping back because what's the word? They have a lot of wiggle room, right? They have a ton of wiggle room right now. So they can start engaging without going too far, right? Without without losing that room, without losing anything, right? So now he could easily drop on this red boat and not lose this middle boat, and things could change pretty quickly.
Should the red boat that's going into the middle now have tacked back sooner towards the course right, just to make sure that they're like his teammates there's not dealing with the 2-on-1?
Yeah, I think that I think right now this middle boat is fleet racing at this point. So if they're in a big righty, maybe they don't want to attack right away because they're lifted or something. But generally, yeah, Eric, I think that I don't like how far that boat went, right? You don't want this red boat by itself over here.
Yeah, I think backing up, they made a mistake when they didn't switch. And after they didn't switch, then it's like, okay, the next mistake is like, well, maybe he should have stayed closer because now he has to go into like help mode potentially. It looks like it's not going to work out that way, but I think they opened the door for black when they didn't need to.
Yeah, it worked out okay for red, but it wasn't the most conservative way of approaching it, right?
Little side note, it's always important to take like a fleet race mentality, a global perspective of the course, like what's happening on the course. As we saw the left boats pass the right boats, you know, like you want to be thinking about that. Like, how is the course playing out in a fleet race perspective? And what would my strategy be if there was no other boats on this course? So that you're consistently thinking about, you know, how am I going to get back into this if I'm behind, or, you know, it's just a very important factor, that fleet racing.
Yeah, and I think when we go back to the start line and we realize that, oh, the black team was really far on the left and the red team is really far on the right, that's kind of what you don't want to see, right? You want to protect that fleet racing also. Like if there was a huge righty right now, I think red should still be in a spot where they can protect that huge righty and balance that right pair and get that left pair advantage, right? So I think you're fleet racing, but you're also defending to a fleet race, right? Because you know the other team is fleet racing too. So you kind of want to be looking on both sides of that fleet racing too. Yeah, good point. So I don't think we need to watch this. I'm sure it'd be fun to watch, but
is there, I'm kind of curious
sure.
what they do with the 2, 3, 4 and see if they probably aren't going to gap, but just as a reminder, like this could be interesting to watch. I think we should watch this actually, now that that
Okay.
guy squeezed in like that. Can we keep watching it for a minute?
yeah. So if you guys can obviously see this mistake, we want to protect starboard advantage, right? And starboard advantage, obviously something that is an advantage. And when we're on port, we need help, right? And right here, I don't even know how this happened because it looked really good from here. So I like what this boat is doing. Do you guys see this red boat here? Red boat number, I can't see their number, but they're kind of slowing down to help this port boat across, right? And they almost do a good job, but they don't do the best job.
I think they predicted wrong. It looks like the sail number 3 didn't have the best tack, but 3 overlaid the mark, which was good. But sail number 3 didn't have the best tack, and 2 thought they were good and sent it. But 2's job, that number 4, the boat that was on starboard ley line, the red boat, their job was to slow 12 down and make sure sail number 3 got around, then go around in the 4. So that's supposed to be the 4, whoever's on that starboard ley line.
Also, regardless, don't you want a gap between the 3 and the 4?
Yes.
For mark 1 to 2.
Yes. So now they're in a position, and we didn't know that when we did this, by the way, but you can see they're going to be in a different position. We have a gap between the 2 and the 3. So it's going to create a wonky, and Jasper asked me this, why does there need to be a gap? But you're going to see probably a wonky 2, 3, 4 downwind. It's not going to pan out how we thought, but I think we should watch it through just to see how things can go wrong. It'll be interesting if black breaks it up.
So something that we talked about on Tuesday is that the boat 2 kind of pushing the 1 down the course, which is what we mentioned on the upwind, right? And I think it's definitely good, but something I want to make clear is that we should always be doing stuff together as a 2v1, always do unfair fighting, right? And I think that when you're pushing the 1 as a singular boat, you're basically making it an even fight between these four boats in the back and an even fight between the boats in the front. So I think like what we were just talking about, that gap between the 3 and the 4, I don't know if who said that, but that gap is caused so that two boats can be attacking this boat up here, right? Because then it's a lot more threatening to the to boat one, and they can maybe get into a play one if they're really confident in their four, right? But here you only have one boat just sending it and attacking the one in this two here. And it's really risky because they're never going to pass the 11 because it's not a double team. So they're never going to pass them. And they're leaving their 3 and 4 to just to play back one-on-one, right? Or 2v2, which is not unfair fighting. That is fair fighting, right? So as this one, I would think that as the two, sorry, the red, confusing with the sail numbers, sorry. As the red boat, the first red boat here, they're not being pressured by this one in the black, right? If the one in the black was like hammering back and try to compress the race at Mark II, which probably they should have been doing, then it would be a lot different. But because they're so far out here, they don't really need any more incentive to be pushed forward. They're just doing it on their own. So there's no reason for this red number 2 to be out here. They should be back and be ready to help balance their 5 and 6. Now they're slowing down. See, they're slowing down, boom in the middle of the boat. They're gonna come back and help. So they realized it maybe a little late because now 12 is right on 2's butt right here. And they're, see how good red boat handling is. I don't know who that is, but I think it's not long.
Yeah,
Just kidding, I
so
don't know who that is.
so just real quick comment on the 4 red 2 there. If you have a boat right on your tail like that, you really need to go high early, and you're going to see they're in super danger territory. They barely have a clean lane, if anything at all, and now 12's got a piece of them, and you can see how quickly a 2-3-4 downwind will fall apart. 4 needed to go high and protect that lane and that starboard advantage over here at all costs. At all costs. It's too late now. They don't have starboard advantage. Boat 12, in my opinion, is pretty much ahead of boat 2. They have inside overlap at the mark, and they have starboard advantage. So
Yeah,
maybe
and now because like you look at whether you're being helpful, right? I keep going back to that point. What are you doing that's helpful? What is 3 doing that's helpful right now? Are they helping balance? No. Should they have crossed and done a switch and stayed with 10? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they should have called a bounce with 1 so that 1 is protecting 10. But now all 3 of these boats are on the port side of the port disadvantage, right? And now this 12, who's already advantage on 2, is letting their teammate 10 get into starboard also, right? So this whole thing is getting wacky.
this is sketch town, man. Sketch town.
Now, red might be bailed out a little bit here that their mark is way over here, which is helpful, right? So maybe it's not as bad as it once looked. And 3, good job, they're coming back to the middle, right?
Yeah, good job to like now, but I feel that you're correct. They should have been protecting that starboard advantage. They're only making the adjustments after they made the mistake. So you want to avoid that mistake in the first place. Boat 1 should either say, hey, look, I'm taking boat 12 and have boat 3 take boat 10 so that they can balance those 2 boats back and let boat 2, who's totally in trouble right now, get ahead into the 2. Like 1 and 3 should be taking 10 and 12 and making sure their starboard advantage on them. And then they're going to have a problem at the zone no matter what, because nobody's pushing 11 around the mark. So there's going to be a big condensing at the zone, is my guess.
Yeah, and I think just going back to the checklist is, and you look at our wiggle room check, right? Look at boat number 3 here. How much wiggle room do they have before they're losing to somebody? They have a lot, right? They could be all the way up against this boat here and not lose anything. They're not that threatened by 10 because they're way over here, right? So I think 3 could be a lot closer here, and kind of trying to minimize that wiggle room. So if they do need to help boat 2 over here, they can do it quickly. Instead, they're switching, which is interesting.
I don't think they have a plan. I think they're not sure what they're doing.
Yeah, that's probably the case.
Ooh, boat 2 barely. Are they going to get away? Yeah, they got away. Lucky son of a guns.
Yeah, I like that jibe there by boat 2. Bad jibe. It's okay.
Yeah, so I think
Yeah, they're
when I
looking a little
watched
better.
that, they're going to probably round into 2, 3, 4, but they still don't have boat. They still got to deal with boat 11 here coming up. But I think you can see how much more sketchy this was without the proper spacing going into it and clogging that lane, making sure that you're maintaining starboard advantage on those boats.
Yeah,
This'll be
I
fun.
think because 1 wasn't really pressing that hard back, I think they have plenty of time to make that. But when the video also that we looked at on Tuesday, is there's a moment when you're getting down to this Mark III in the 2-3-4, you have to be thinking, when are we switching from like playing back in the 5-6 and balancing? When are we switching to getting around that bottom mark, right? And there's a line that you hit and you're like, okay, now we've protected our 2-3-4 and now we have to get around the mark, you know? So really be thinking about when you're switching that game plan to changing what you're focusing on. And I think that was pretty easy.
And just a little reminder from John's talk, you know, he mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned it yesterday or Tuesday, but I don't, you know, Quinn, just real quick, there's another video that's red versus black. It's a 7-minute, 53-minute, a 7:53 one. Yeah, so you know, it's easier to sort of condense and kind of balance like lower near the mark. So you're sort of like, because you can try to figure it out halfway down the leg, but you're kind of like, well, where are we? How much do I need to balance? You know, just little tiny bump and runs is the key. There was a nice one by one of the boats in that one. But long story short, as you get closer to that bottom of the leg, you can kind of say, okay, we got to hit this guy just a little bit or that guy a little bit to organize for the rounding. So just to keep in mind that, keep control of it, but little bites of the apple, as John would say, to just keep control of a boat and just eat away at their threat.
Definitely. Okay, so let's get back into the starting first leg mindset here and get back to our checklist. So right now, do you guys see what order we're in? Every other, right? Oh no, we're not every other. So if you're red, you're looking at you're starting next to your pair right now, right? If you're black, you have to be thinking that you're not going to be every other. So it's trying to identify that now you're every other pair, right?
Did
Okay,
boat
so I
two
would say
foul
that's
11
probably,
there?
I don't know. Doesn't look like it. Maybe, oh, they are spinning, maybe. It's not good for red. Okay, this one's a messy one, but we'll still do it, okay? So you know, our first thing is looking at fleet racing, right? Our second thing is looking if yourself needs help. I think that right now it's pretty obvious. It's not really an even 6 boats off the line start, right? So it's pretty easy to see who needs help, right? This boat 11 black doesn't need help. Red 2 probably needs some help. This boat in the red needs some help. This boat doesn't need help, but they're not looking great, right? So for red here, you're looking at full fleet racing, full chasing here. You know, you're kind of, if I'm this red boat, I'm kind of the only one that's okay. And right now you need to put your mask on first, right? You got to be selfish first and save and look to, like it says in the PowerPoint, I forget exactly what it says, but it's basically looking to not lose your whole race in this moment, right? So you're basically trying to keep it 2 because you know you don't have the 1, right? You know you're not in the 1, so that means you're in a play 2. That's the simple thing to think about first. So you know you have to be in the 2 though. So this guy needs to be trying really hard to stay in front of this boat. If I'm black, do I have a lot of wiggle room? If I'm black 11 here, up here, what's my wiggle room look like? Anybody?
You're looking comfy.
Yes. So if I drop down on this red boat, am I going to lose to any other boats?
Come on, somebody.
No.
Maybe
Doesn't
your
look
own
like it.
teammate, but that doesn't matter.
Right. So I would say this is a pretty, how far, or maybe 15 seconds off the start. And this is a very, very obvious thing where we have a lot of wiggle room and very little consequence for losing a few boat lengths, right? So this is something where it definitely goes ding, ding on the checklist saying, yes, go for it because you have a lot of wiggle room and it'll be a huge gainer, right? Because this is your only threat here. Your only threat is having this boat in the 2, and you can immediately get rid of this threat very easily without losing anything. Well, now your 10 just lost, so that's not great. So here it's looking a little bit less ideal, right? So right now it's pretty time sensitive, I would say. If you're looking at time sensitive versus not time sensitive, pretty time sensitive, because you don't want to let this red 2 get out, and they're choosing not to do that.
But it also appears that boat 11 kind of is pinching off boat 1 and getting away. So maybe boat 12 just decided they got it under control. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it looked like they started to go, and then they realized things changed quickly, right? All of a sudden this boat's out. All of a sudden you don't have the 5 anymore with your teammate. All of a sudden your teammate's pinching this boat off. So then you change and you go do your other thing, right?
Yeah, but backing up, just to ask a question. I mean, I feel like if boat 12 had made a quick decision there, boat 11 would definitely have the cross right now, where right now, like in this video, they don't definitely have the cross. It's like probably not. But if they just done it right here, I don't know.
It's definitely hard to tell, but I think, right there, you could easily make the choice to go hard on this boat here.
Just weed the garden really quick, rip that weed out of the garden. Boat 11's free. You tack out right when boat 2's going to the left. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They kind of keep looking back. They're not looking to help boat 11. They're like, who do I cover? So it's a real defensive mindset instead of, and I think we could do a better job at being offensive, right? Like we could say, I want to be offense on this. We're in the 1, probably 2, but let's make sure we're in the 1-2 and not a 1-3 and just get it over.
Yeah, I think that, like, looking at our past team, this is our weakness right here, you know?
Yeah.
I think that when you look at people that beat us, like Stanford, they take care of this stuff a lot quicker than we do. You know, they'll be immediately on this boat. They'll immediately get rid of any threat. All of a sudden, if this is a fast boat right here, I think they have 11 pinned, you know? Maybe not, but all of a sudden you're not looking like in a 1-2-3 anymore, you know?
Yeah, you were looking at maybe a 1-3. And, you know, I remember Nick Baird, that was all they talked about. It was 100% of their debrief was like this first beat and like weeding the garden, as Nick K-Shaq calls it.
Well, we're talking about it, so we're going the right
Yeah,
direction.
I know, totally. I'm just saying that this is like one of the best team race sailors out there, and that's the main focus they talk about. So it's good that we are talking about it.
They're hanging in there. I mean, obviously black is pretty good because they have starboard advantage, and they'll probably be able to attack and cross this boat, but they're not controlling this boat. They're not slowing it. They're not in a spot where they can balance it, right? So even though this guy's in front of this boat, that doesn't mean that they're controlling. What if all of a sudden there's a big righty and this boat is in front of this black boat over here, right? So it may look comfortable, but all of a sudden that one choice of being a little bit late of pressing down could change a lot of things. If there's a huge righty here, you know, we're sailing in Santa Barbara, all of a sudden you're in a really easy 1-3. Which to me, it kind of looks like their ride's gaining a little bit, but maybe that's just a video.
Yeah, we'll see in a second. It's going to be interesting, but the main point is they opened the door. They could have closed the door. Ooh, what happened there? Oh, it just starboard advantage.
Starboard advantage.
Black bottom. Yeah, but they're going to be in a 1-3. Looks like the right came through.
So just what does black do wrong here, guys? Just somebody jump in real quickly. Anybody? Maybe I'm wrong, but nobody. Black went over ley line, right? Which is like the worst thing you can do right here. So even on ley line is bad, right? Because if you tack and this boat lee bows you, all of a sudden they're over ley line. Here's your mark 1 over here. All right, do they have a hook? Probably. Are they gonna do it? I don't know, but they're hooking now. And maybe, you know, black barely gets over the top. You know, this is probably this red black boat's a little bit faster than the red boat, so it all works out, but just simple things that a good team would not let you do.
So backing up, what would you recommend in that scenario, assuming it was exactly that?
You tack before ley line.
Just go earlier?
Yep.
Got it. But it does show like how close it was, right? If they had just weeded the garden a little bit earlier, I mean, look at this, like one could almost have had a piece of 12 there if they hadn't, you know what I mean? It's so close. And if they had just taken care of the business earlier on, you know, it would have been a breakaway 1-2, not a, I mean, it kind of is, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think against a top team that might have not have gone that way, right? So
100%. No, I don't think it would have. I think that the boat on the right would have gotten pinned. And I think the boat on the left would have come in probably in like third. So it would have been like they'd have been lucky to come in a 2-3 or a 1-3.
okay, let's watch this one quickly and then we'll stop and chat. Okay. So we don't have nice colors on this one, but it's a 2-7-9, right? So 2 is way over here on the boat end. 7 is way at the pin end, right? So you have both ends covered. Doesn't really mean good or bad, it just means something you should identify. And then you have 9, which is, so you're every other in the bottom 4, and then you're far over here. So okay, so we have 3 boats bailing out, right? And we don't even know whose team they are. It doesn't matter, but we just identify that really quickly. 3 boats are bailing out. 4 and 12 are on the same team. So 4 is kind of acting as a gatekeeper to boat 2, right? Which I like that tack out move. 12 doesn't really need to be a gatekeeper because 4 win right there. And now, like, let's go through our checklist right here. Let's pretend we're team 1-12-4, 1-4-12, right? Who wants to identify some checklist things? So if I'm boat 1, I'm saying fleet race first. Second point is, do I need help, right? I would say that, like, you did beat your pair. That's why boat 7 is coming out here, is bailing out here. But you're kind of controlled by 9, right? So do I need help? Probably, maybe not, but yes, I would say yes, right? Am I winning my pair? Yes, but it's more complicated than that because your pair kind of switched, right? Then if you're boat 12, do I need help? Am I fleet racing? I'm probably in the 1 here. I have starboard advantage on boat 9, who's the second place boat. Do I need help? No, but how much wiggle room do I have? Not very much. Can I make a difference without changing my wiggle room, without losing anything? Yes, right? So I could tack on 7 here and make a difference on 7 and slow 7 down without losing to 9, right? But my 1 buddy over here needs help because they identified that, right? So we see that by asking these questions, you're not solving anything, right? Nothing's like becoming really clear, but it's just identifying your problems and it's identifying which ones are more important, right? So does my buddy need help over here more important than me slowing down this boat that already looks kind of weak? Probably, right? So maybe you're staying here. If you stay here, are you leaving your other teammate to be 1 against 2? Yes, right? So who, and then your other thing, right? Who is weak and who needs help quickly? And how quickly do they need help, right? We're looking at pretty much the same things, right? Who is strong and doesn't need help? 4, are they strong, doesn't need help? Maybe not. What's our first play? We have the 1, so maybe we're not in a play 2. Do we have the 5 and the 6? Maybe not. So maybe we're not calling a play yet, right? So I'm just kind of running through this mindset, right? This constantly asking yourself questions about this, right?
Well, backing up, Quinn, I'm just looking at this right now. I'd look at it and say, well, if 4 has a piece of the boat on the far right, if 4's got a piece of 2 and I take 7, we're a play 2. We just let boat 1 know we need them to make sure that they don't get pinned so hard they can't get back, so that they can get into some kind of position where whoever is the 2, if 12's the 2 in the 2-3-4, they can push boat 9 and pressure them so they don't feel like, you know what I mean? Like maybe right now they're like, I got boat 1, but as soon as they're like, ooh, I could be in a 1-3, they could be in a 1-3-4 here soon. They'll be pressured to keep moving forward and let boat 1 free.
Yeah, super good point. Here's my pop quiz. What did I miss on my checklist? What question did I miss on my checklist that I just went through?
Off the line boat speed.
Not that one, but yes, good point. I'm thinking of a different one.
Identify pairs.
Yes. Does everybody get that? I did not think about that, right? So I was thinking about all these different things and I did not think, how many pairs do we have, right? How many pairs do we have right now? Obviously, like you just look at 2, 2, 2, right? Do I have this pair? Maybe it's close. Do I have this pair in the middle? Yes. Do I have this pair? Maybe not, right? So I'm thinking right here, okay, 2 pairs pretty comfortably, right? So instead of chasing this boat over here and kind of switching up pairs and then leaving this boat threatened, I'm just going to identify that I have 2 pairs. If I have 2 pairs, I'm winning. So I'm going to solidify those 2 pairs. If I'm 12, I'm tacking right now, right? Which is what he does.
It also seems like the wiggle room thing, it's not just like space, it's also time. You have you have more time to think about what you want to do and you're not as rushed in your decisions. Like, I feel like that situation could have gone either way, with 1 tacking over 7 and 12 continuing on, or 1 continuing on to the left. But it's not, it doesn't seem urgent, at least from this top view right here. It doesn't seem like it's a decision.
So when you can, that's a great point. I think like when you can do things without losing anything, then there's maybe not a wrong answer, right? If I stay on 9 here, I'm not losing anything, right? I'm not going to slow down, right? If I tack on 7, I'm not going to lose anything, right? So maybe they're both okay choices, 12 chose this one, which I think is probably the right one. But when you think about the wiggle room, you think that like it kind of makes your choice for you, right? Maybe this is not bad, so I'm okay either way.
I like what 12 did, because if he throws 7 enough, then 4's definitely got 7, and then 12 had the boat on the right probably. So they're sort of taking care of those 2 boats and letting 9 go. You know what I mean? We'll see how it works out, but I think it's going to be okay. And then of course the boat on the right, 9 feels pressured to keep winning the race because he's like, yikes, we're not winning our pairs over there.
So you see, I'm not even looking around anymore, but I'm seeing 12 kind of like doing not full speed tacks. They're kind of doing tacks where they kind of come out low. And maybe that's just a bad tack. But to me, I'm thinking that he's giving up the 1, right? We're no longer thinking about the 1. We identified that the other team has the 1. And if we don't have the 1, what play are we in? Play 2, right? So that's these simple checklists just give you your plays for you, right? You don't need to be thinking like, well, are we in a 2, 3, 6? I can't tell because I don't know if my pair like a mile away from has that boat. Like, you don't need to think about all of these things to come up with your play. And what does your play do? It describes what you're doing, right? It just describes what you should be doing, right? A play is a goal, right? Your goal is a 2, 3, 4. That doesn't mean that you have to be in a 2, 3, 4. It doesn't mean that has to be all equal. It just means my goal is a 2, 3, 4. And this is describing my goal. Calling play 2 is describing my goal, right? So this boat could be in last. My boat could foul. My teammate could foul this boat over here. My teammate could flip over here. But I'm still in a play 2 because a play 2 is my goal, right? And when play 2, it describes that this is what we're doing. So I'm just trying to think of ways that you can get to your descriptions a little bit quicker. I don't even know which boat over here is.
I think that's our team is the one on the windward side of that pair. So if I'm correct, boat 12 will go right now. A little bit late.
Yep.
Yeah, it was. I was right. So boat 12 is trying to weed the garden and make sure that
That's
that
definitely
one.
a protest, but
That is our own team there, Chris.
oh, was it?
Yeah, it was our
can't-
own
So-
team.
This is what I'm thinking right here. So this is moving quickly, right? I'm like, what's happening? It's hard to keep up with this, right? So imagine if you're sailing and you're yelling at your crew at the same time, right? There's a lot to, just kidding. There's a lot to think about, right? So if I'm boat 12, what am I thinking about? I'm thinking about boat 7 over here all by himself on the right favored Santa Barbara, right? They're on the right. They're all by themselves. No one's covering them. They're a threat. I'm thinking that boat 1 could come down and mess with me. I don't know what they're thinking. I'm thinking my partner over here is on port. Is port the advantage way side to be on the race course? No, they're disadvantaged, right? So you're thinking about this stuff as you're coming across, right? Now they make the right choice, but is this port boat really safe from this middle boat that's on starboard? Maybe I would have, it's a tight cross, which is probably why they waited right there, but they went. Now this boat is looking to have this boat on starboard, right? We're trying to protect starboard advantage. Boat 4 is kind of sketchy, right? So that was kind of That I think that all kind of happened too late, right? If I'm boat 4, I'm almost thinking I go right here with boat 7. Does anybody disagree or agree with that?
I agree with you.
Agree.
I think he just probably, it happened so fast. The moment was there and it was gone. He probably just realized it right after, is my guess.
Yeah, well, those are the difference makers, right? Where things happen fast, right? That's why we're trying to identify situations early, right? If I'm, how much time did he have to make this choice? A lot, right? But he probably wasn't thinking about that. He's way over here on starboard for a long time, so he should be identifying what's happening. He didn't have a ton of time, but enough, right?
Hmm.
Right there, that he sees this boat on starboard, this boat that he has this much time, right? He gets on starboard. There's a boat tacking on port from right there. He's thinking about what happens when this boat comes, right? What if this boat tacks and I'm going to do this? What if it ducks? What am I going to do? Right? You're thinking about those future situations. So he's coming. He's going to duck. Maybe he should have gone with him. Maybe it works out okay that he didn't. There's not always the right answer, right? Just got to be thinking about it. Now you see this boat coming, so you're communicating with your team. Am I bouncing? Am I switching? Am I crossing? Right? That would be a switch, right? Communicating with your teammate right here. Because 12 could easily cross this boat and then protect 7, right? That could easily happen. But what I like is they don't do that. They do a bounce off. This boat luckily gets across.
I think 12 did
This
a great
boat-
job in this race. 12 was really doing the job all the way along, consistently helping where they needed help, getting done what they needed to get done. It's tight.
Yeah,
but
I would
think
say it wasn't the cleanest thing ever, but they got it done, right?
Wait,
Yeah.
couldn't
They're in a pretty
boat 4
solid-
like pinned the one I don't remember what number it is. Couldn't boat 4 have kept pinning the boat all the way out to the left?
Yes, but they're kind of in a disadvantaged situation. I don't think pinning to the left is really what you want to do in a play 2, because in a play 2 you're winning and you're advantaged, right? And you don't want to just take yourself to the left side of the course and have your other teammates have to balance a bunch for you because you're on port now, right? What did boat 4 do wrong here?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, to Joe's point, shouldn't boat 4 have, I think he meant tack to leeward and controlled him to lure.
Oh, is that what you meant, Joe? Or I thought you meant on boat
No, I
2.
meant boat 4 continue with boat 2 out
2.
and have 12
Yeah.
back over and protect starboard side.
I don't like that, because you're trying to get your most advantaged player, right, to the place where they can make the most difference. And here, if this boat on the far left needed help, maybe boat 12 could have slowed boat 2, right? Now it all kind of happened fast and that didn't happen, but maybe it could have happened, right? But boat 4 would have no control over that, right? They would have just been kind of hanging on for dear life and hoping that they don't get pinched off, right? You see that, Joe?
Yep, agree.
So I think that's kind of where that choice happens. And then also, if 7 looks really advantaged here and they're way up here where my cursor is, then 4 is not going to have a piece of them. So they're okay, maybe 12 cross and pick up 7, because my most advantaged player on my team should pick up the most advantaged player on the other team, right? But 4 probably thought, I can cross boat 7. They just crossed me and I'm fast and I feel good about my attack, so I can cross boat 7. So I don't need 12 to come and get boat 7. So I call a bounce. And now I have a better advantage person on here and a good enough advantage person here, right? If you stay, then 12 is way too advantaged and it's kind of not balanced super well. So I like this call. But what 4 does right here, does anyone want to guess before it happens? Gotta guess quickly. I already played it, so you already saw the answer. They go really far here. Oh my God, they're crossing. They should tack there. They should tack on them, but they're going to keep going a really long time.
Yeah.
We'll see if that hurts them or not. I don't even know where the top buoy is, but I just assume it's too far. But we have this boat to come help, right? 4 made a mistake, so we have boat 1 to help, right? Because this is why the 2, 3, 4 is such an advantage play, because we have 3 against 2 here. The 1's not doing anything. They can't do anything, right? So we have another buddy to help. So they should go right there. A little late. I would have gone earlier.
But can I mention wiggle room real quick? Because there's no wiggle room for the pair on screen left, the right side of the course, because they've got a 1 a 1-3 they're trying to do on the left side. There's zero wiggle room on either side right now. So
Yep.
like 9's got a little bit of wiggle room, but 12-2, the entire rest of the fleet in my mind has no wiggle room. Only 9 has a little bit of wiggle room.
And I think 9 is slowing here. You see they're left their jib, but they're not going to do it for very long. They realize that boat 1 over here, that's their limit. That's their wiggle
Yep.
room limit. So they can't do any more than what will keep them advantage. And they're kind of sketchy here because they're going to be on port coming across, right?
Yeah, they're really
So maybe
pushing
4
the
didn't go
limits.
too far, but
So you're saying from earlier, sorry, like boat 12 is happy sending their 2 teammates to starboard lay and kind of biting the bullet as the most advantaged boat and going out to left? Is that?
maybe. But all I'm saying is that it's better than boat 4 doing it, right?
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
that would even be more disadvantaged.
Okay.
So if somebody has to do it, it might as well be your most advantaged player, right?
Look at this cross. Boat 9 gave up too much wiggle room. You were right.
Right. Great point. So wiggle room, guys. They left their jib for too long. Right here, they're left their jib. They're not paying attention to their wiggle room. They're not paying attention to how much doing an action will lose them, right? And then they get hit on starboard. And I don't know what's going to happen, but they're probably going to be in the 1 here. Do they want to be in the 1? I don't know, because now they're in a not a play 2 anymore.
So I think a couple wiggle room things.
12 is
Can
going to
you
get
pa-
them 2, though.
can you pause it
Yeah,
for a
that's
second?
wow.
So I think a couple wiggle room things happened. 9 gave up some wiggle room on boat 1 on one of his opponents, and he gave up just a little too much where he lost starboard, so he lost the 1. And then the other kind of 2v1 on the other sides, that was 12 and 4 double teaming 7, gave up just a little bit of wiggle room on boat 2. So there was 2 boats that were kind of going fast that whole time, boat 1 and boat 2 on opposing teams. And boat 2 kind of almost looked like they were going to get in and beat boat 12, but boat 12 kind of swung in there at the last second. But you can clearly see like a 2-3-4 just turned into, it was almost turned into a 1-4-5. And then because boat 12, got a little piece of them, it's going to turn into probably a 1-2. But I mean, I'd rather be in the 2-3-4. It's just a real, Quinn, I just gotta say, like, the whole wiggle room comment is revolutionary. I mean, it's all about that wiggle room. You got to know it. You got to be able to define it pretty easily and be a little conservative about it. Because I bet you boat 9 thought they had it.
Yeah, I think it really is something that you should be constantly thinking about, because it's 12 on that. No, 12's on the other team. But yeah, I mean, that turned into and also even without the wiggle room, just starboard advantage on this final approach. Like, you can see that even watching a video and pausing it, we have to like sit here and look at it and go through everything. Like, there's a ton to think about, which is why you can't just you can't expect yourself to know everything that's happening. So breaking it up into little golden rules that you think about can make a big difference, because these things happen very quickly. And the teams that can understand what's happening quick enough, like all of a sudden 1 here is crossing boat 12. You see that right there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, never mind. Sorry, wrong teammate.
Yeah, 1 and 12 are on
Like,
the same team.
Yeah. Just thinking like how this other team got so disadvantaged on port. I don't really know how it happened, but it did happen, right?
Well, yeah. So what happened?
It all happened. Yeah.
If you pause it, what happened is that 9 was in a 1, and he's kind of in a 1-5-6. I mean, that's what was sort of shaping up, but they had a really weak 2-3-4. So he's looking if he can just quickly control it on this, do a 1-3 pass back on the left side. The problem with that is that John Vandemore said, like, anytime you're in these scenarios, you got to look at like which pair of 3 is upwind of the other pair. And right now, they're not. The one on the left is slightly upwind of the one on the right, but the one on the right's got starboard advantage. So like, if you were going to place a bet right this second, which like group of 3 is going to win, it would probably be the starboard side, because you're going to say, well, if they even have 1 inch of those boats on the left, they have them. And so it's really important, unless you're further upwind in that group of 3, to understand that you have to play it way more conservatively.
And it just proves how strong the 2-3-4 is, because even though this boat is in like a 2v1 and a 1-3 or a 1-4 maybe, like they just can never fight unevenly. They're always like fighting 1 for 1 or something. And the 2, 3, 4 can always kind of have that person to come and help, like this boat over here, and then this boat over here, eventually the 2 and the 1, right? So I think it just proves that 2, 3, 4 is hard to beat. Okay, I don't know if we need to watch the rest of this. It looks like it's just a 1, 2.
Yeah, that was a great video though. Lots of good moments in that.
Oh. All right. I think I will write down this checklist and either put it in our playbook or send it out to you guys. It's only like 4 things, so it's not complicated, but good to have. And then, are there any questions?
I had one
Might have been
question.
a little confusing at certain points, but
I just have one question. Where does wiggle room fit in? I got rule number 1, fleet race. Rule number 2, do I need help or does somebody else need help? And then the wiggle room to help, is that like 2B?
wiggle room is 3. So the first is fleet racing. Second is, do I need help or pairs? Like, am I winning a pair? And then the third one is wiggle room. And then the fourth one is who is weak, and then the who is weak and who is strong.
Who has the 1? Yeah.
Yeah.
Copy.
Yeah, I think that it can feel complicated, but I think that, as you can see, these races are all shaped up on the first leg. So I think that it's important to identify this stuff quickly and not be overwhelmed by it while we're racing. I think that's it for me. If you guys don't have anything else you want to go over, what do you think, Brad?
That was great. Thank you, Quinn.
Thanks,
Good
Brad.
job, Quinn.
Yeah, thank you, Quinn and Brad.
You're welcome. Thanks for listening.
All right,
Thank
I'll
you.
share this with everybody. I recorded it, so I'll share it with everybody who wasn't here.
Nice.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, Quinn.
All
See you,
good?
bud.
Yep. See you guys.